celebration of Wildlife Week, it's a kind of reminding your duties as a superior race in the hierarchy of pyramid. So from that angle, this wildlife is sometimes indication of good biodiversity. Wildlife is indicator of your happiness. Sometimes wildlife is indicator of business. So every aspect, as I told, is related to wildlife. Now it's our duty to honor this celebration of Ministry of Environment and Forest. They have already given a call, and we have, celebrated in terms of organizing different competitions, painting and poster competitions of different age group, and also we have clubbed this event with young holistic our program, outreach program, YoHo. So YoHo activity, ENVIS activity, and schools activity, this is combined together this webinar. And I am very happy that eminent people, they have agreed to discuss, to share their research with our students of SES and also the connected other community. This is very good to know something new, something very relevant from the policymakers, from researchers, their experience, and that counts other than the book knowledge, other than the Google knowledge, WhatsApp knowledge, but real thing when you interact, when you see these people, sometimes they are on the panel and they recognize. So it's all kind of multi-phased interaction through online meetings. Because physically we are not able to go to lab, not able to go to university. This is the best way how to utilize time and how to focus on our academic and research meanings and objectives. So this is, once again, I welcome all of you to this webinar and thank you for sparing time. Now I introduce one by one. Whenever the turn comes, I will introduce the speaker. And I request the speaker to limit 10 minutes so that some person, so it will be completed within the time. We have, first speaker for this panel, our own student from School of Environment, Mr. Guite. He was very bright student and he readily agreed to speak to the school students, and also, in fact, he is the right person who can deliver, who can talk about policy related to wildlife, because he is coming from Indian Forest Services, and we are proud of that. Our school alumni is also protecting forest, wildlife with the full responsibility with the government of India. So now I welcome Mr. Guite to share his thoughts, some new policies, if at all ministry is planning, and also a way forward for you and for whole country as a wildlife mission. Mr. Guite, please.
Sir, have to
unmute yourself, please. Please unmute yourself. Oh, no voice. Unmute karna, unmute.
Mr. Guite, you have to unmute yourself.
Swati,
on your screen bottom, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, he will have to do it from his end.
Okay. You have to do unmute. Speaker ko cross karo. Yes.
Some connection issue, I guess.
No. He has to again log in. So these are basically online hazards. We have to bear with that. Sometime connectivity or sometime, software change, environmental change. And many times, if you are not habitual of that particular software, such problem comes. Mostly people are using Zoom and other software. Yes, can you call? Can you call?
So should I call him?
Do you have number?
Yes, sir.
Call him.
Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Sir,
Huh?
there is a lot of network problem.
So, okay, I am putting you like this. You now speak.
Sir.
You speak now, please.
Okay, first of all, thank you, sir, for inviting me in this panel discussion in this wildlife week program. And as far as my brief introduction is concerned, I passed out from JNU in the year 2010, MSc from this School of Environmental Science. So I have a lot of emotions and memories about JNU. I still try to visit whenever I have time, but due to busy schedule in the daily working condition, I'm not able to. But it's my hope and prayer that I will be able to come and meet you all. So regarding this short speech, I don't have much in mind, but since we have a limited time, I would like every one of us to think about the Article 48A and 51A, wherein it has put obligation upon the state and upon the citizen of the country. It shall be the duty of every citizen of India to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, and wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. So, to start with, the word compassion is very important whenever we work for this wildlife and whenever we think about wildlife, be it the research scholars or be it the bureaucrats or the technocrats like us. Whenever we work in the field of execution, whenever we have to work, it's very important to have this word, compassion. Compassion, without compassion, it's difficult to have patience. So, even for the research scholars, keeping in mind about the compassion of the living creatures and the importance of these living creatures, it will be the motivation for all of us to work harder and to come up with something that can be helpful for the conservation of wildlife. So as far as the new policy from the government is concerned, recently there is a concept of e-surveillance being implemented in this Kaziranga National Park in Assam and in another state, the exact place I do not remember, I cannot recall it. So these things are coming up. So the government has ample of acts and policies, and especially like when it comes to protected areas and protected sanctuaries, the success can be also seen. But in this occasion, I would like to stress upon the duty upon the citizens. The duty upon the citizens to have compassion of wildlife and the living creatures, to have that pass that message to the common people and to the ordinary people. It is the duty of all of us, the research scholars and the government, public servants, to pass on that message to them. It is a challenging task to pass the message to the common people, to people living in the remotest part of the country. So it is a challenging task, but unless it is being seen as a common goal and the collective is, as rightly pointed out in the Constitution, as a fundamental duty. It's a fundamental duty is to protect. But the importance of conservation and how to conserve them, this message has to pass on to the lowest level of the people and the remotest part of the country. For that, especially the research scholars have, more responsibility to work towards that. Maybe we can explore more about how to pass on that and make people aware about that for the common good and for the conservation of the wildlife. As far as practical experience in the field is concerned, I may have something to share with you, but like due to shortage of time, we may not go into that. Generally speaking, the message that I would like to, pass on to us in this wildlife education is that the Constitution itself acknowledges the importance of keeping, saving them, and having compassion of them. So the word compassion should be kept in mind. This should be the motivating factor while we talk about conservation, be it, doing any research work, any research topic, or be it in the implementation of the policies. This is the key word that should be kept in mind. So once again, I would like to thank Professor Kulshrestha sir for inviting me in this talk. And unfortunately, I'm not able to connect you through the video. That would have been a great pleasure for me. So with this, I would like to conclude my speech here. The key word that I would like to share with you is that we have compassion. Compassion, once we develop the compassion, there should be a patience and patience for what we work for the conservation and protection of this wildlife. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Guite. Your message is to the research scholars so that they can carry the flag for future sustainable development and wildlife protection. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for inviting me. Hope to see you soon.
Wonderful. And if you stay, you can hear other panelists. If any questions are there, I will pass on to you. And
right, sir.
yes, thank you very much. Now we have another eminent speaker, panelist, researcher in wildlife, Dr. Gautam Talukdar. He is the head wildlife protected network in WII. Dr. Gautam is a PhD from IIRS, and he has worked on CDAC and several other organizations. He is a part of IUCN World Commission or Protected Area and has been part of IPCC 6 assessment. A lot of experience he has, and we are proud to have you in this panel on this occasion of Wildlife Week celebration. Dr. Gautam, we are very thankful you readily agreed, and I thank Professor Joshi who introduced, he gave his number. So I am very happy that you are among us to share your research for our students and staff. Thank you. Dr. Gautam, please.
Thank you, Dr. Kulshrestha, for the wonderful introduction. And it's indeed my pleasure to be here today. In fact, it is a mandate of the Wildlife Institute of India to actually promote the Wildlife Week. And when an organization comes forwards by itself, it is really a great pleasure for us. And in fact, I have shared with you a series of webinars today that the Institute is also conducting, and every day we have specialized seminars. Today, I would focus generally about the scenario of our country's wildlife, and as already mentioned by Mr. Guite, that the Constitution of India enshrines that conservation of forest and wildlife is a fundamental duty of every Indian. So all our students have to remember that it is our duty. Of course, he also stressed on compassion, but compassion, even if you don't have any compassion, you need to remember that it is your duty. to conserve both forest and wildlife. And some interesting facts for you is India has got the highest number of tigers in the world. It also supports the last population of Asiatic lions and the great Indian bustard. So we do have several feathers in our cap. Uh, the protected area network, that is primarily the wildlife sanctuaries, national parks, conservation reserves, and community reserves, they we also have a substantial coverage of them within our country. And outside these protected areas, we also have the eco-sensitive zones which act as buffers for the protected areas. India is signatory to the Convention on Biological Diversity, to Convention on Migratory Species, Convention of on International Trade for Endangered Species, that is CITES. So we are signatories to several important uh, treaties related to both wildlife and biodiversity. Interestingly, India has also formulated its own Biodiversity Act in 2002, and which kind of covers a lot of aspects, primarily focusing on conservation of wildlife, followed by uh, we should wisely use the resources that are there. And the last part is access and benefit sharing for the local people who stay around these protected areas or the conserved areas from where we derive benefits. So we are actually quite ahead. The most important part is we end up doing this in spite of just having 2.5% of the global area. India has just 2.4%, and it supports about 17% of the world population. So, in spite of such high population density, that is second only to China, we have the tremendous kind of biodiversity in. It is simply amazing if you think about the population pressure. It is simply amazing that we have this kind of both biodiversity and wildlife left in our country. Uh, we all know that infrastructure development is the key focal area these days, and it's primarily linked to human well-being. And at the same time, the value systems of our younger generation is eroding. Most of the people are actually focusing on more money, comfort, and therefore there is a lot of competition for the same land. So we have a lot of competing land uses, and increasingly we are losing out on uh, the wildlife habitat that is there in our country. Of course, we have got very strong laws. That is the Wildlife Protection Act, Indian Forest Act, uh, as well as the Biodiversity Act, which do take care. But it is not that government is only trying to enforce act. We also have something very, very important which is there. That is the National Wildlife Action Plan of India. Very few people might be aware of it, but India proactively takes a lot of steps. And in fact, I'll show you a copy of it. You can download it from our website if you want. That is this plan, India's National Wildlife Action Plan, and the time period is from 2017 to 2031. We'll have a new action plan in 2032. So we have a substantial kind of actions planned over this period of time with respect to protected areas, with respect to climate change, with respect to threatened species, with respect to landscape networks. So a lot of things are thought of. And if you want more information on these things, you can obviously download these plans from the website, and you can yourself think on how you can end up contributing to the development of the wildlife plans and management in India. So with these words, I thank you all again for inviting me to this particular event, specifically to Dr. Kulshrestha and Dr. P.K. Joshi. And that's all, keeping in mind the time considerations that you have.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gautam. Very nice information related to what kind of acts, what kind of policies we have. According to you, there are several policy documents we have that shows that India is very proactive in protecting wildlife. Because our Wildlife Act, I think it was done in 1972, very close to the Stockholm Conference. So as a national responsibility, we have been very proactive always. So now I invite another panelist, Mr. Surya Prakash. He is very keen observer of wildlife. In a true sense, he is wildlife researcher. He is working in JNU. Our students are very much influenced. I have seen he is even writing a lot of work on biodiversity, wildlife, and this. And I was impressed, and I talked to him, and he readily agreed to share his research and experience in the field. He has a lot of field experience. So he is now going to be retired from JNU this month. So it's good to have his words and views so that our students can test or follow if at all they wish. And then this can be further, basically, once you share your thought, you pass on and then inspire others. One or two students, if they are inspired, that is basically the purpose is solved. So now I request Dr. Surya Prakash, please say a few words and share your experience to motivate the students.
Thank you, Professor Kulshrestha, for giving me this opportunity, and thank you everyone in the panel and to all students. It's my pleasure to be here once again. There is a saying, because there is a time constraint, so I won't touch much, but there is this old saying that Prakriti Rakshite Rakshita, means nature protects if protected. And we are living in a country which is having mega diversity, and many of which are endemic to our country, as Professor Talukdar has recently pointed out, and Dr. Guite has also said. And being former student of School of Life Sciences, JNU, I did my PhD long back under late Professor A. Ramesh Rao in cancer biology. But later on, after sacrificing so many animals during my research, I changed my mind, and now I fully devoted for this conservation. So coming to the point, now what are the issues related to conservation of our wildlife and how we as a citizen can protect it? So for that, there are many important issues that the topmost which I find, as just now Dr. Talukdar has pointed out, yes, the population explosion, and this I call it anthropogenic stress on the biodiversity. And when a lot of anthropogenic stress is there, this leads to habitat loss. And when habitat is lost, so the animal lose their forest cover. And once the forest cover is lost, they get exposed to the poachers. And then poachers do their work. They kill them. Second important point is that fashionable plantation drive. There are so many NGOs, they are coming out and they are just doing plantation work everywhere, wherever they see the land. And there was a seminar, and even in the CITES convention of biodiversity, I was also a member there. And I raised this issue in a meeting at WWF India, that when we can have a water management board, wetland management board, wasteland management board, why can't we have grassland management board? Because this is the time that we have to focus not on one species, but on the entire habitat. Once that grassland is stored, it is restored, then we can save the entire species, including the state bird of Rajasthan, that is great Indian bustard, which is close to extinction. Less than 250 species are left in the wild. And it has already lost its habitat, and so many places where it was existing earlier is extinct from all those local area. Coming to next point, we always discuss about human-animal conflict in the reserve forest area. But how many times do we really think about human-animal conflict in the urban world? If we go to, I have been tracking the southern edge of this Delhi for last 36 years, and I have found out that how I'm losing, and rather Delhi NCR is losing its diversity everywhere. And this is just because of the human interference. For example, coming to the species in the urban landscape, there are stray and feral cattle, there are stray dogs, there are stray monkeys, and pigs. There are so many incidences where these animals are creating havoc. Recently, I think there was news that 2 years ago, when the Gir forest, in the Gir forest, lot of lions died. And the reason which was later on precipitated was the distemper and the rabies. So how this rabies reached there? Later on, it was found out that there were many feral and stray dogs. They entered in that area. Coming to the Mr. Guite, if you are there, you know it. When I was project in Asolavati Wildlife Sanctuary, the entire rhesus macaques population from Delhi is translocated in an area which is not even a habitat of that, and they are fed by vegetables and expensive fruits. So what happens? Lot of cattle is also there. So Nilgai, they come in contact with them, and they are developing a lot of disease which are prevailing in the domestic cattle. So we have to come to some point where we can stop and minimize human interference. Third point, I come to that sand mafia. I have been going to the river banks of Yamuna, and there I see that lot of sand mafia, they take their bullock carts inside the river, and they have made some pits. You won't be able to see them, and this cart is filled with the mud from the center of the river, and it is brought there. So what is happening? That soil erosion is taking place, and because of that, we are losing that wetland grassland, which is another important habitat, which is a buffer zone, in fact, of that of the wetlands. So if we can do something for that, and all these important aspects are very important, and I'm happy to share with you that for last many years I have been working with the education department of WWF, and we have come out with so many awareness program and lack of education among the people. And JNU is one of the leading institution in the country which has initiated effort to create awareness in the community, be it student, staff, faculty, or any other who is living within the campus. For last 15 years, we have been publishing calendars which depicts the photograph of plants, sometime of birds, sometime of butterflies, mammals, so many things. Then in 1995, we started this Hindi magazine called Parisar, and somehow it got stopped. we restarted when Professor Sudhir Sopori was here as a Vice Chancellor. And the first page of that magazine is of environment, and there I contribute in Hindi. I tell people that what is our wildlife within the campus, and to share with all of you that in last so many years of my stay in JNU, I have documented the entire herpetofauna, mammalian, and butterflies and avian diversity of the campus, and we have published it. And tomorrow we are publishing another important document of Delhi, is a common mammals of Delhi from WWF, and which is the last in the series because we don't have documentation, proper documentation for a layman. So these are the efforts which we have been doing, and there are so many students from environmental sciences, school of languages, uh, social sciences and life sciences. They have joined hands with me and are helping. So before I superannuate by the end of this month, I'm very confident that the coming generation is in the will take care of it, and JNU and the country's biodiversity would be in the safe hands. And the last message, that rather than saving our ecosystem, we should save our ecosystem. Thank you so much.
Oh, great. Your last word really is $100 million phrase. Very nice.
Thank you.
That we have to save, students have to play their role in protection of wildlife. And I am very happy that Surya Prakash ji has trained new generation. That is good, and that is the basic task of academician. They have to generate, they have to prepare new generation for the new challenges. Thank you, Surya Prakash ji.
My
And
pleasure.
now we have our another panelist, our own colleague, Dr. Usha Mina. She is expert in ecology, air pollution. Lot of work she has done. I need not to introduce much. She is well known professor. I invite Usha to share some thoughts, some ideas, some plans. Usha, please.
Thank you, sir, and my namaskar to all of you. And sir, thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I'm very happy to hear all our panelists, earlier panelists, they have highlighted that why this week is very important to celebrate. So, being an ENVIS co-coordinator, I just want to point out this, that the mandate of ENVIS is to generate the awareness. So, in that line, as we all know that every year, since 1954, we are celebrating this whole 1 week, 2 to 8th October, as a National Wildlife Week celebration. And this year we are celebrating 2 to 8th October. So 2nd October has already coincided with the birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, which itself is the epistole of peace and non-violence. So the celebration of Wildlife Week is an ideal opportunity for all of us to reaffirm our commitment towards conservation of wildlife and harmonious coexistence of all. And it is still necessary, it is very urgent and necessary to do this reaffirmation, because in 2019, this United Nations report has reported that the extinction rate of this wildlife, all the species is found that about 1 million species of animals and plants are in danger of disappearing, and maybe within a decade. And because it is because of us only that we are not doing this conservation properly. So, and though we have policies at international levels and national levels, we have mechanism also. And to implement this wildlife conservation strategies and all that, and this government bodies as well as non-government bodies are doing all this, and they all trying to meet the objective with which this week has been planned, to make people aware of the protection and conservation of wildlife, to implement services. but still we are lacking. And as we all know, when we are saying with respect to awareness, the large number of population of planet Earth came to know through the wildlife, basically through different communication media platforms like print media, broadcast, and internet. And we Indians, being a teenager, I was also fascinated to the wildlife through this National Geographical programs or Discovery Animal Sciences program. And I'm sure that in today's era also, many of our youngsters are being fascinated by this. But with this, I just want to say, because in one of our panelists, Guite is also there, and he is been a policymaker. At the national and state wildlife boards should take initiative to utilize these platforms to communicate the functional role of wildlife in regional or national languages for sensitization and awareness. And as well as this platform should also inform the people that how the traditional knowledge or indigenous communities are doing their contribution for conservation of wildlife and forest. And then we should promote, like ecotourism has been promoted, the wildlife tourism should also be promoted. And when we are saying that wildlife tourists should be promoted, then we should make aware the society that the development of human has been taken place through the behavior of, by learning through the behavior of wildlife only. Thousands of years our ancestors have copied that the way the predators thought, like they stalked and hunted, and then they started that practice, and then they make their survival possible. And humans have also been using animals as inspiration for everything. We humans, like from fashion to architecture. In the engineering world, this is known as biomimicry. And you all will be surprised. I am also surprised at how many inventions have been truly inspired by this wildlife design and behavior patterns. For example, if you want to see that scientists have used mosquitoes' sneaking biting ability to make needles which will be less painful for humans. Like elephant trunk, which is composed of 40,000 muscles, the design of elephant trunk has been used to prepare robotic arms. Okay, so in this way, and then large number of animal behavior and technologies have been we are using, and we are developing an innovative kind. Like fireflies help make LED light bulbs more efficient. Then underwater mollusks have inspired scientists to make one of the strongest adhesive which is available in the market. And then you all of must have observed the woodpeckers, that how woodpeckers consistently throughout the day peck on the tree trunks to make their home. And this behavior has been noticed by the scientists, that it is because their skulls have built-in shock absorption. Scientists are stealing this nature design for making the airplane black holes. So in this way, when we enhance the wild tourism and when we generate this awareness that the coexistence of wildlife as well as human is very essential for the development as well as human welfare. So I think the celebration of Wildlife Week will serve this purpose, but it should not be limited to this week. We should do continuously these activities through different platforms, and I will say we should continue these activities not only in this English language, we should continue it in regional languages as well as national languages. Then only we can come out with the major innovations, and we can serve the purpose of this week. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Usha.
Yes,
बिल्कुल सही है, हम लोगों को हिंदी में बात करने की ज्यादा आदत पड़नी चाहिए अगर अच्छा मैसेज देना है, क्योंकि जमीन से जुड़ी ये चीज है, जमीन की और उसी लैंग्वेज में मातृभाषा में हो तो अच्छा है, क्योंकि वाइल्ड लाइफ हुआ या बायोडाइवर्सिटी हुई, फॉरेस्ट की जब बात करते हैं तो अपनी मातृभाषा में करें, तो मातृभाषा में रिसर्च भी अच्छी होती है, ऐसी बात नहीं है, लेकिन अभी थोड़ा वक्त लगेगा, चीजें बदल रही हैं। मैं अपने अब तुमने बोला है तो आई एम आल्सो मोटिवेटेड, और अब अगला जो हमारे पैनलिस्ट हैं वो है मंजुल पंवार। वो योहो यंग होलिस्टिक लीड हैं और बहुत ही स्कूल में एक्टिव वर्कर हैं। वो बहुत ही डिसिप्लिन स्टूडेंट है और काफी समझदारी वाले व्यक्तित्व में मैंने मंजुल को चयन किया और मंजुल ने अपनी बड़ा उत्सुकता से हाँ कर दी और मुझे अच्छा लगा कि मंजुल योहो एक्टिविटी के बारे में और अपने कुछ वाइल्ड लाइफ के अनुभवों के बारे में बताएंगे। मंजुल प्लीज। मंजुल जी यहाँ पे पीएचडी के स्टूडेंट हैं। I forgot your supervisor. What?
Professor Kulshrestha, just a minute. I would like to interfere. I have to go to get my nodules. So, with all due respect to all the panelists, may I leave this meeting?
Oh, बिल्कुल बिल्कुल साहब आप जाइए।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सभी लोगों
बहुत
का।
बहुत धन्यवाद, आप आए, आपने वक्त निकाला और मैं आपकी रिटायरमेंट के बाद की लाइफ का उम्मीद करता हूँ अच्छी रहेगी और अच्छा स्वास्थ्य रहेगा, एक्टिव रहेंगे और मार्गदर्शन करते रहेंगे विद्यार्थियों का। थैंक यू वेरी मच साहब।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। बहुत बहुत नमस्ते नमस्ते नमस्ते।
हाँ मंजुल, आप बताइए एक्टिविटी और अपना इंटरेस्ट उसके बारे में।
Thank you so much, sir, for providing me with this opportunity to speak at such a eminent panel. As far as YoHo activities are concerned, there are many activities of YoHo that are being undertaken in the school. Be it giving the knowledge about the various scientific things, or creating awareness, or providing students opportunity to write, speak, conduct various competitions, etc. So it's a really new thing that is happening, and I appreciate the efforts of Dean sir in making this YoHo platform. And regarding I would like to also use this opportunity to speak something on this Wildlife Week. As we know that India is one of the 70 mega biodiverse countries in the world. It is home to 7 to 8% of the world's recorded species, from top predators to the largest herbivores like the elephant. Well, when we talk about the positives, as the previous panelists also said, the number of tigers in India has increased by 741 within 4 years from 2014 to 18. The elephant population also has increased from 2012 to 2017 by around 400. But at the same time, in the state of Kerala, there is a slight decline in the population of the elephants. But even that is, conservationists say that it is as per the carrying capacity of the forests. When we talk about the lions, the wildlife in the Gujarat forest, the Asiatic lions, even their population has increased by 29%. So this is again a very good and appreciative thing for us as a country as a whole, for us, because as a country we have done something for the wildlife. But how can we contribute individually or at a small level? When we think of wildlife, the first animal that probably comes to our minds is the tiger. As I've said, lion, elephant, these are the charismatic species. But wildlife is not just limited to these animals. Butterflies, honeybees, fishes, tortoise, turtle, etc. These are also the part of the wildlife. There is a huge concern for the flagship and the charismatic species, and also it has good funding and policy making also, which is need of the hour. But we also need to do something for the small scale and the small animals, because they are also very important part of the biodiversity. Can we pollute less our water bodies, etc., to protect the species that live in there? Can we play small roles to support other organisms? Like even raising a small garden will sustain micro and small level biodiversity and wildlife, the honeybees, butterflies, etc. Planting fruit yielding trees will also help for the animals like monkeys and also the frugivorous birds. We need to think of playing small innovative roles. Here I would like to provide a small example of Gorilla, which was known to every household a few decades back, but now it is endangered condition. It used to come out to walk in the morning and evening, but its presence is very reduced. Even the sparrow population in Andhra Pradesh alone dropped by around 80%, and in the states like Kerala, Gujarat, Rajasthan, it dipped by 20%. And in the coastal areas, it dipped by around 70 to 80%, which is a very terrible thing. So one of the things which is causing this decline is the unavailability of water and food for these birds. If you think of we keep ourselves in their place, then we have a water source where we get regularly we get water from. But all of a sudden, the water source disappears. So it will water is something without which an animal cannot survive for a day or two. So what we can do, at least we can put these water pots etc. on our terrace etc. Even in JNU, the one of the group students for development, they also last year put these big water pots, not just in the residential areas, but also in the jungles for the big animals like Nilgai and all. And there were so many pictures of animals drinking water from them. So which was a very good initiative. So also we also should not think that I'm not responsible for the damage to the wildlife, because every paper we use, every wooden door we have in our homes, almirah, bed, etc., tables, all this comes from the trees, which comes from the forest, and cutting those destroys the habitat of one of the other organism. So, giving just like Usha ma'am said that National Geographic inspired. So, I would like to give the example of one of the movies, Aquaman, in which the underwater communities decided to throw back all the waste to the human population. So, just think of an imaginary situation. If all these plants, land, river, etc., they could throw all the waste we are giving to them back to us, will we be able to handle all that? Definitely no. So we should also think about other organisms. On the academic level, also more studies need to be taken. And one more thing that I would like to highlight here, that we should also recognize and give them the recognition that immense work done by the Bureau in ongoing I got the opportunity to work in Rajaji National Park. Yes, the work that the forest ranger, these forest guards will do is incredible and so commendable. Without much education or without much salary and all, they are contributing immensely for conserving the wildlife. The wildfires they control without much equipment, they do it with bushes, etc. They live away from the main cities. There are many ranges which, like for example, the Dholkan range, it takes 40 minutes to in a car to go to Dholkan range from the main road. So they are living in very limited resources, but their contribution to the wildlife and to nature is. So with this active groups, they are the richest in the biodiversity. So it's important to take also the help of the traditional knowledge and traditional practices in the conservation practices along with the modern science and modern technology. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manjul. Very nice. Very nicely you have explained the need, and I am very happy that young minds, they have noted these things, these points to be followed in future, and definitely you will also percolate it down to further primary and secondary level. With the words I thank you once again, Manjul. और अब हमारे बीच में यदि है प्रोफेसर पी के जोशी. Before vote of thank, I just want to request, अगर प्रोफेसर पी के जोशी हैं तो दो शब्द कहें. जोशी साहब हैं क्या? अनम्यूट करिए. प्रोफेसर जोशी. स्वाति जोशी साहब है? नहीं है.
सर शोध कर रहा है, बट आई थिंक वो नहीं है क्योंकि वॉइस.
अच्छा, तो नाउ आई रिक्वेस्ट यू टू प्रपोज a vote of thanks and also announce the prize winners.
Yes.
Swati, please.
Thank you, sir, for providing me this opportunity. May I request Ms. Sandhya, my colleague, to focus on the presentation of winners for actually under YoHo and INVIS scheme. We had initiated 2 online program competition to celebrate this Wildlife Week along with this webinar. So one was online poster competition and another was online photography competition, where participants from as young as 5 to working professional, amateur nature photographer lovers, professional photographers, they've contributed. And so regarding results, in first we have photography competition, which is also available on your screen. So first prize was won by Miss Astha Patnaik, and second Mr. Saurabh Kumar Singh. Third, Mr. Devesh Gilani. With regard to poster competition, can we have poster competition frame now? Yes, thank you. First prize won by Miss Aisha Panda, and I must say she's a school student and wonderful initiative she has taken with detailed poster making. Second prize by Mr. Siamkhanmuan Mehta, and third prize Miss B. Divya Darshini. She's also a school student. So I was really impressed by the kind of effort school children are putting in, and this shows that our future is quite bright in field of wildlife conservation and protection, and their love and passion, compassion for nature. And with this, I would like to extend formal word of thanks to all the panelists today, Mr. Guite sir, for wonderful enlightenment, policy, current policy decisions which government are taking, and his motto of compassion and passion for the new researchers. Dr. Gautam Talukdar sir, for highlighting all the different acts and international treaties which we are obliged to as a country. Dr. Surya Prakash sir, who shared his experience and his detailed work that he has done all through his career. And I would really like to thank Professor Kulshrestha sir for organizing this event and putting up such an eminent and enlightened panel for discussion today. Dr. Usha Mina ma'am, our co-coordinator, and she's always guiding us in the right direction. And her words and examples today from wildlife was really encouraging. And last but not the least, Mr. Manjul Panwar, YoHo leader and PhD student from School of Environment Science. Thank you, Manjul, for sharing your views and your work during your thesis, which is really encouraging. And I think a lot of students would have been motivated to take the work ahead. And I would also like to thank all the participants, my colleague from INVIS team, and participants from school. A lot of professors today participated from our School of Environment. I would like to thank Dr. Elora ma'am, Dr. P.K. Joshi sir, Dr. Mina sir, and all others, and all the students and all the participants who've readily participated in this webinar. Thank you. Thank you so much. So.
Thank you very much, Swati. And I was saying because Professor Joshi wanted to have two queries. He's not there then.
No, I think he has joined now.
So, he has joined? Joshi sir? If you are there, please. Okay. Wonderful.
I have all good reasons to compliment you, ENVIS team, and everybody connected with YoHo program, and for having such a nice speakers, and even a budding scientist from our school. And so it is a wonderful thing that we are continuing with celebrating such weeks. And this week also overlaps with, Space Week. Oh. So International Space Week. So I doing a bit of that. I feel in wildlife sciences and wildlife management, space technology is bringing newer possibilities for many of the good things. So as we are celebrating the overlapping weeks, let us overlap both the sciences to find better answers to the unanswered questions till date. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure listening to all.
Thank you very much, Professor Joshi, for your kind words. It's time to close, and once again, I thank all the panelists, all the attendees, students, for making this successful, and to take home. The message is that the responsibility lies with the students, young generation, to protect forest, to protect wildlife, to protect environment in general. So now this is your time. Whatever you grasp, please try to implement in your life, and live and let live should be the motto of life, and that will save wildlife also. With these words, thank you very much. Thank you all. And the feedback system, there is a feedback link. You can give your feedback to that link, and also try the list you can see, or your relate or ward is somebody want to see, the list is there on the website of ENVIS. These words, thank you very much. Thank you all, and see you some other time, another meeting, other webinar. Bye bye. Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you.
ऑनलाइन नमस्ते थोड़ा सा लेफ्ट या राइट सर, सेंटर में नहीं, थोड़ा सा हाँ ऑनलाइन नमस्ते ऐसे.
अरे you are right. तो तेरा हो रहा होगा. Yes.
सर हमें ध्यान से सुनेंगे तो हम राइट ही बोलते हैं.
ओके, बराबर, सही ध्यान दिलवा दिया. ऑनलाइन में नमस्ते,
ऑनलाइन में नमस्ते ऐसे है.
थैंक यू.
ओके.